There I was, standing in the soft glow of candlelight and fairy lights strung like stars across the ceiling of the grand ballroom, my heart pounding with a joy I thought would last forever. My white lace gown hugged me like a dream, the veil cascading down my back in delicate waves. And all around me were the faces of the people I loved most, my parents wiping happy tears, my bridesmaids giggling with champagne flutes in hand, and him, Damien, the man I had convinced myself was my forever. "Elena," I whispered to myself in that moment, "this is it. Your fairy tale is unfolding right here." But even as the words left my lips, a tiny shadow flickered in the corner of my mind, something I had pushed away for months. A secret I didn't know I was about to face head dash on. My name is Elena, and at 28 years old, I had built what I thought was a beautiful, steady life in the bustling heart of our city. I worked as a graphic designer for a small but passionate studio, creating logos and campaigns that made brands come alive. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mind-filled with late nights sketching ideas on my laptop, coffee runs that doubled as therapy sessions with my best friend, and quiet evenings curled up with a book, dreaming of the kind of love you see in movies. I had been through my share of heartbreaks before Damien. There was the college boyfriend who faded away after graduation, and the guy after that who made promises he never intended to keep. Each time I picked myself up, telling myself the right one was out there, the one who would see me, really see me, and stay. Then Damien walked into my world at a charity gala 6 years ago. I was there volunteering, helping set up tables for a local children's hospital fundraiser. He was one of the speakers, a successful marketing executive with a voice that carried across the room like warm honey. Tall, with dark hair that always looked perfectly tousled and eyes that crinkled when he smiled. He had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. After his speech, he found me by the dessert table, holding a plate of untouched cake. "You look like someone who appreciates good chocolate," he said with that easy grin. We talked for hours that night about art, about travel dreams, about the way life sometimes surprises you with kindness. By the end of the evening, he had my number, and I had butterflies I hadn't felt in years. Our first date was magic. He took me to a little Italian place tucked away in the old district, where the owner knew him by name, and the candles flickered like they were in on our secret. We shared pasta and stories until the restaurant closed around us. He listened when I spoke about my fears of never feeling enough, and he opened up about losing his mother young, how it made him chase success to fill the emptiness. "Elena," he said that night, walking me to my door under a street lamp's soft light, "I feel like I've been waiting for someone like you my whole life." I melted. From there, our love story unfolded like pages in a romance novel I couldn't put down. Weekend getaways to the coast where we watched sunsets melt into the ocean. Lazy Sundays cooking breakfast together in his apartment. Surprise flowers at my office just because. He made me feel cherished, protected, adored. 6 months in, I introduced him to my family. My mom hugged him tight and whispered in my ear, "He's the one, sweetheart." Dad clapped him on the back and talked sports like they'd known each other forever. My younger sister Sophia teased me endlessly but admitted he was movie star handsome. Everything felt aligned, like the universe had finally handed me the happiness I'd earned. We moved in together a year later, turning his sleek downtown loft into our cozy nest, my colorful throw pillows clashing perfectly with his minimalist furniture. We talked about the future constantly, kids someday, a house with a backyard. Growing old together. Then came the proposal, and oh, how it took my breath away. It was our 2-year anniversary. Damien had planned a weekend trip to the mountains, a cabin nestled in the pines with a private hot tub overlooking the peaks. On the second evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in oranges and pinks, he got down on one knee by the fireplace. "Elena, you've turned my world from black and white into color. Will you marry me?" The ring sparkled under the firelight, a simple solitaire that caught every flicker of warmth. I cried yes before he even finished the question. We celebrated with champagne and danced barefoot on the wooden floor, laughing until we couldn't breathe. In that moment, I believed nothing could ever break us. Wedding planning consumed the next year in the most beautiful way. We chose a venue that felt like a fairy tale, an old estate with rolling gardens and a ballroom that could hold 200 of our closest friends and family. I spent weeks poring over fabric swatches for my dress, finally finding the perfect one that made me feel like a princess. Damien handled the music and the menu, insisting on my favorite chocolate cake for dessert. His best man, Lucas, was there through it all, Damien's college roommate, the guy who had been like a brother to him for over a decade. Lucas was charming in his quiet way, always cracking jokes at our engagement parties, helping with setup ideas. But sometimes, when he thought no one was looking, I caught a flicker in his eyes, something serious, almost pained. I brushed it off as wedding stress. He's just protective of Damien, I told myself. The months flew by in a whirlwind of fittings, tastings, and late-night planning sessions. I ignored the little things, Damien's phone buzzing at odd hours, him stepping out for quick work calls that lasted longer than usual, or the way he sometimes seemed distracted when we talked about our honeymoon. Pre-wedding jitters, he'd say with that smile that always melted me, pulling me close and kissing my forehead. I can't wait to make you my wife, Elena. And I believed him. How could I not?
He was my rock, my safe place. Finally, the wedding day arrived.
I woke up in the bridal suite at the estate, sunlight streaming through lace curtains, my heart fluttering like 1,000 butterflies. My mom helped me into my gown, tears in her eyes. You look radiant, my girl. Sophia did my makeup, chattering about how perfect everything was. The air smelled of fresh roses and vanilla from the bouquets waiting in the hallway. I stood before the mirror, touching the delicate pearl earrings Damien had given me the night before. Whispering a silent thank you to whatever higher power had brought us together, the ceremony was everything I'd dreamed. Walking down the aisle on my father's arm, seeing Damien at the altar in his tailored black suit, his eyes locked on mine with what I thought was pure love. The vows we wrote ourselves, mine about finding home in his arms, his about promising to cherish me every day. We exchanged rings under a canopy of white roses, the string quartet playing softly in the background. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, the cheers erupted, and Damien kissed me like the world had stopped spinning just for us. Guests tossed rose petals as we walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, laughing through happy tears. At the reception, the ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and tables draped in ivory linens. We danced our first dance to At Last, swaying slowly while everyone watched, my head on his shoulder, breathing in his familiar cologne. Dinner was served: filet mignon and lobster tails, toasts already starting for my father, who called Damien the son I never had. Then my maid of honor. My cousin Mia stood up with a funny, tearful speech about our sisterhood. Laughter filled the room, and then it was Lucas's turn. He rose from his seat at the head table, tapping his glass with a spoon, a small smile on his lips. The room quieted, expectant. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice steady. I've known Damien since our freshman year of college. We've been through everything together: late-night study sessions, road trips, the kind of friendships that feel like family.
He paused, glancing at Damien, who was grinning back at him.
I squeezed Damien's hand under the table, my heart full. But today I have to share something important. Something that can't wait any longer. The room leaned in. I felt a strange prickle at the back of my neck, but I smiled anyway, thinking it was just another funny story. Little did I know that in the next few moments, my entire world, the one I had so carefully built, the one filled with love and promises, would come crashing down around me like fragile glass. Lucas cleared his throat again, his fingers tightening around the microphone. The smile on his face had faded, replaced by something heavier, something that made the air in the ballroom feel thick and charged. Damien, he said, turning fully toward my new husband, you've been my brother for years. But I can't stand here and let this night go on without the truth coming out. Because there's a secret you've been carrying, one that's been hiding in plain sight. And it's gone viral. My stomach dropped. Viral? What was he talking about? Damien's hand went stiff in mine. I glanced at him, searching his face for some sign of confusion. But all I saw was a flash of panic he tried to mask with a nervous laugh. Lucas, come on, man, this is the wedding toast, Damien muttered under his breath. But Lucas didn't stop. 6 months ago, Lucas continued, his voice gaining strength, a woman named Chloe posted a video online. It started as a quiet cry for help from a single mom, but it exploded. Millions of views. Hashtags like #hiddenfather and #runaway ad trended for weeks. In the video, she's holding her 2-year-old daughter, tears streaming down her face, talking about the man who promised her the world, got her pregnant, and then vanished when she needed him most. She blurred the photos at first, but she played voice note texts where he said he loved her, where he talked about building a life together. She even showed a blurred image of his tattoo, the one on his wrist. The same one Damien has. The room went deathly silent. I felt my breath catch in my throat, my chest tightening like a vice. No, I whispered, barely audible. This couldn't be happening. Not on my wedding day. Not after everything. Lucas pulled out his phone, connected it to the projector they had set up for the slideshow of our photos. The screen lit up behind him, not our honeymoon pictures, but a paused frame of Chloe's viral video. Her face, exhausted but determined, holding a little girl who looked. Oh God, she had Damien's eyes. The same deep brown, the same slight tilt at the corners. I didn't want to believe it either, Lucas said, his voice cracking now. But I dug deeper after I saw the video trending. I found the unblurred messages. Damien, you've been paying her off in secret, begging her to stay quiet because you were building this life with Elena. You have a daughter, man. And you never told any of us. You never told your wife. He looked straight at me then, his eyes full of sorrow. Elena, I'm so sorry. I couldn't let you walk into forever without knowing the truth. Chaos erupted. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My mother covered her mouth with her hands, tears already falling. My father stood up, face red with shock. Sophia grabbed my arm, whispering, Elena, breathe. But I couldn't, my legs felt like they might give out. Damien was on his feet now, reaching for the microphone. This is insane, Lucas. You're ruining everything. That video is fake, it's not me. But his voice shook, and his eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal. I pulled my hand away from his, the ring on my finger suddenly feeling like a chain. I stood too, the world tilting around me. Is it true? I asked, my voice small at first, then louder, breaking. Damien, tell me it's not true. Tell me you don't have a child with someone else while you were promising me forever. He reached for me, but I stepped back, my gown suddenly feeling too heavy, too constricting. Elena, baby, please, it's not what it looks like. She's crazy, she made it all up for attention. But Lucas wasn't done. He played a short clip from the phone, Chloe's voice. Clear and pained. He said he was leaving his old life for me and the baby. Then he blocked me when I sent him the ultrasound. The accent, the way she said his name, it matched the man standing beside me. Guests were murmuring, some pulling out their own phones to search the video right there at the tables. My heart shattered into a million jagged pieces right there in front of everyone. The man I had loved so deeply, the one who had held me through my darkest nights, had been living a double life. All those late calls, the unexplained absences, the times he'd come home smelling faintly of another perfume I'd convinced myself was from the gym. I had ignored the red flags because love had blinded me. Now they cut like knives. I felt exposed, broken, destroyed from the inside out. The fairy tale I had clung to dissolved in an instant. The wedding ended right there. No cake cutting. No more dances. Guests started gathering their things, some offering me hugs as they left, others staring at Damien with disgust. He tried to follow me as I fled to the bridal suite, but my father blocked his path. Stay away from my daughter, Dad growled. In the quiet of the room, surrounded by the remnants of my bouquet and my discarded veil, I collapsed onto the couch, sobs tearing from my chest. How could he do this to me? To us? I replayed every moment in my mind, the proposal, the vows, the way he looked at me during our first dance. All lies, all built on sand. The days that followed were a blur of pain I never imagined possible. I moved back in with my parents, the apartment we shared now feeling like a haunted house full of memories that mocked me. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Every notification on my phone was another share of Chloe's video. now with Damien's name attached thanks to Lucas's exposure. Comments flooded in. Poor bride, what a monster, she dodged a bullet. But I didn't feel like I dodged anything. I felt abandoned, worthless, like the love I had given so freely had been thrown back in my face. I confronted Damien once, in the lawyer's office where I started the annulment papers. He looked smaller somehow, broken in his own way. I was scared, he admitted, voice trembling. Chloe was a mistake from before we got serious. When she got pregnant, I panicked. I thought if I just kept it quiet, paid her enough, we could have the life we planned. His eyes pleaded with me. I love you, Elena, that part was real. But his words felt hollow now. The betrayal had poisoned everything. I saw the man I loved crumble into someone I barely recognized, selfish, cowardly. Willing to build our happiness on someone else's heartbreak. Yet in the midst of that darkness, something shifted inside me. The pain that threatened to swallow me whole began to harden into resolve. I was no longer the naive girl who ignored the signs. I was a woman who had been shattered, and who would not stay broken. I started journaling late at night, pouring out the anger, the grief, the questions that kept me awake. How did I miss this? I wrote one evening. But more importantly, how will I make sure no one else falls for the same mask? Friends rallied around me, Lucas especially, who reached out with apologies and proof he had gathered quietly for months, feeling torn between loyalty to his friend and doing what was right. I saw the video early on, he told me over coffee one day, his voice heavy. I confronted him privately, but he denied it. I couldn't let you marry him without knowing. His support became a lifeline. Slowly, the emotional storm inside me calmed just enough for clarity to emerge. The love I had for Damien wasn't gone, it had transformed into a fierce determination to reclaim my life. I stopped hiding from the viral storm. Instead, I began to see it as a strange kind of justice already unfolding. Damien's reputation was cracking publicly, his job calling him in for conversations, his social circle shrinking. But I knew this was only the beginning. The real shift from victim to survivor was happening within me. I was no longer just the heartbroken bride. I was becoming the woman who would rise from these ashes, stronger, wiser, and unwilling to settle for anything less than truth. Weeks turned into months, and the viral fire Lucas had ignited at our ruined wedding continued to burn brighter than I ever expected. I decided it was time to take control of the narrative, not for revenge in the ugly sense, but for the kind of justice that heals. I created my own video. Sitting in my childhood bedroom, the same one where I had dreamed of weddings as a little girl, I hit record on my phone. My voice was steady, though my hands trembled slightly. Hi everyone, I began. My name is Elena, and 6 weeks ago I stood at the altar believing I was marrying the love of my life. What happened next shattered me, but it also set me free. I told my side of the story, the whirlwind romance, the ignored doubts, the devastating toast that ended everything. I didn't attack Damien with hatred. I spoke from the heart, about the pain of betrayal, the confusion of loving someone who could hide such a massive truth, and the quiet strength I was finding in the aftermath. I attached screenshots of the annulment papers, blurred for privacy but clear enough to show the truth. I tagged the original viral video from Chloe, now a friend in this strange twist of fate we had connected privately. 2 women bound by the same man's lies, and she had given me her blessing. My video went live at midnight, and by morning it had been shared thousands of times. Comments poured in like a wave. Queen, you are so strong. This is why we need to listen to our gut. Damien deserves every bit of this. Brands I had worked with reached out with support. Even news outlets picked it up as a human interest. Story about hidden lives and public reckonings. Damien tried to fight back at first. He posted his own vague apology video, claiming personal struggles and begging for privacy. But it only fueled the fire. His company placed him on leave after clients started pulling out, uncomfortable with the scandal attached to their marketing. Friends distanced themselves. Some reached out to me with apologies for not seeing the signs. His family, who had welcomed me so warmly, now faced their own quiet shame. His mother called me once, voice thick with regret, saying she had suspected something but never imagined the depth. The consequences unfolded like dominoes: lost opportunities, strained relationships, the public gaze that refused to look away. He had built his life on deception. And now that foundation was crumbling beneath him, the climax came on a rainy afternoon 3 months later. I had moved into a new apartment, small, bright, filled with plants and art that reflected only me. Damien showed up at my door unannounced, soaked from the downpour, eyes hollow. "Elena, please," he said, voice raw. "I've lost everything. The job, the friends. Even my relationship with my daughter is strained because of all this. Can we talk? Can we try to fix this?" I stood there in the doorway, the rain pattering behind him, and for the first time, I didn't feel the old pull in my chest. I felt calm, strong. "Damien," I replied, meeting his gaze without flinching, "you didn't just betray me. You betrayed a child who deserved a father, a woman who deserved honesty, and the version of yourself that could have been better. I'm not here to punish you anymore. The world is doing that. I'm here to tell you I forgive you, not for you, but for me. So I can move on?" He reached out, but I stepped back gently. "Goodbye, Damien." I closed the door softly, the click echoing like the final page of a chapter one had outgrown. In that moment, the revenge wasn't about destroying him further. It was about reclaiming every piece of myself he had tried to break. Chloe and I even met for coffee once. We sat across from each other, two survivors sharing stories of the same man. And we laughed through tears about how life had a funny way of exposing the truth. Her daughter, little Layla, now had a father who was finally stepping up, thanks in part to the spotlight. As the months passed, peace settled over me like a warm blanket. I threw myself back into my work, creating designs that felt more authentic than ever. I traveled alone to places I had always wanted to see, the mountains where Damien had proposed. But this time I hiked the trails by myself, breathing in the crisp air and realizing I didn't need anyone to complete me. Lucas became a close friend, nothing more, but his quiet support reminded me that good people still exist. I dated again eventually, but slowly, with boundaries and eyes wide open, looking back now, standing on the balcony of my new life. The city lights twinkling below like stars that had realigned just for me, I understand the deepest truth of all. Betrayal doesn't define you, it reveals who was never meant to stay and who you are capable of becoming. I was shattered, yes, but from those broken pieces I built something unbreakable, self-love that no one can take away. If there's one lesson I want to leave with anyone listening to my story, it's this: listen to the quiet whispers of doubt. Trust the people who show you the truth even when it hurts. And most of all, never be afraid to walk away from a love that asks you to shrink yourself. Because on the other side of the pain is a version of you that shines brighter than any wedding gown ever could. I am Elena, and I am finally truly free.